Hi, it's Paul here from selftalk and today I'm going to cover 10 ways to effectively deal with having too much to do. Now, having too much to do or feeling overwhelmed is the most common form of stress in today's world. And I call it time poverty, the idea that there's just such a lack of time, there's not enough hours in the day to do all the things that you can do. And it can be a hard one to crack because you feel like you're out of control. There's all these things, you're working as fast as you can, but you just feel that there's no way you can really combat that in some way. And I've had quite a few hypnotherapy clients that have been experiencing this recently. So it's been something that's been on my mind quite a bit and something I've wanted to help them with. And I want to help you with as well if this is something that you're experiencing at the moment. So if you think about life, there's all the things that we should be doing. You know, we should be exercising, we should be eating healthily, we should be doing yoga, meditation, spending time on our own self-development, doing morning rituals. And maybe there's all things that you should be doing at work. Maybe there's things you need to be doing if you're a mother, a father, a parent, all those kind of things. So there's so many things we should be doing, and there just doesn't seem to be enough hours in the day to do it. So where does this pressure come from? Well, often it comes from work, you know, it can come from your boss, it can come from clients as well. And what can make it worse sometimes is when there's staff cutbacks or there's budget cuts and just the feeling that there's a need to do more with less. And I think technology can make it worse as well, because now we can do so many things more quickly, more efficiently, that there's kind of more things to think about, more mental noise in a way in our minds. And outside of work, you know, there could be lots of other pressures from family, you know, spending time with certain people in the family, friends that you want to catch up with, and also pressure from your kids as well, doing the best for them. So how do you know when you have too much to do, when you feel overwhelmed? Well, sometimes it's pretty obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious. So just to give you an example, when the tasks that you normally do, whether it's work tasks or things you do at home, are normally rewarding and enjoyable, but they start to not be rewarding and enjoyable because all you can see is this long list of tasks that you need to do. That's a key that you've got too much on, okay? Also, when you feel that your mind becomes very busy, you're thinking of all the things you need to do, then that's another clue as well. So what I'm going to cover now is 10 ways to effectively deal with having too much to do. So the first way is to write everything down on a piece of paper or on your computer. I can think of many times in the past when I've had all these things in my head. I've come home one evening and I'm looking busy, I'm looking stressed, and my wife says, "What are you stressing about? What are all these things you need to do?" And I sort of struggle to answer that question. I know I've got all these things to do, but because they're in my head, I can't really articulate what they are. So instead, I write them all down on a piece of paper or on my computer, and then it's all clear. I've got it very visually now. I can see exactly what I need to do. I can prioritize them. And for me, it gives me a sense of perspective as well. And often find the stress and that overwhelm feeling actually reduces when I have it all written down. I think it can also be an emotional release as well. Just the act of writing all those things down can help release that stress emotion. So the second one is to prioritize. Okay, so you've got to put all those tasks into some kind of order. So focus on what's urgent, what has to be done, what should be done, but also incorporate tasks that you want to do, things that are going to give you a sense of fulfillment, happiness, and they're also going to work towards your own long-term goals so they seem meaningful to you in some way. And you'll then get left with some other tasks that you don't want to do. Maybe see if some of those you can delegate to somebody else if you have the ability to do that. And then there'll be some things that really are low priority. Okay, I'd almost call those the don't do's. They could be maybe things that your boss has asked you to do that just don't seem that important, and maybe he won't even remember that he's asked you those things. So maybe you could just not do those or wait until you get reminded. Maybe there's email requests to do things that you think, again, they're not going to add little value to the business or to life or whatever. Maybe you wait until they follow up with you. Now, it might not seem that professional doing those sorts of things, but the reality is you've got too much to do and you've got to prioritize in some way. And you've got to prioritize in a way that means that the most important things get done, but also you do some things that make you feel happy and fulfilled, because when you feel happy and fulfilled, you're more likely to get those other tasks done because you're going to feel better about yourself. Now, number 3 is to change your self-talk. Now this one comes from a video by B at the Daily Positive, and I'll put a link to the video in the description below. So what she says is, when you feel overwhelmed, when you have too much to do, don't say, "I'm so busy," or "I'm so stressed out," or "I don't have enough time." Why? Because your unconscious mind and your body gets the message loud and clear that you are stressed, that you don't have enough time, and that will put you into fight or flight mode. Okay, and this creates a vicious cycle then, because when you're more stressed, you can't think as clearly, so you're less productive, so the work begins to pile up even more. And also the cells in your body are listening to those phrases as well, that self-talk as well, and they will act accordingly as well. Remember that your unconscious mind doesn't have the ability to make choices. It just imprints whatever you say regularly to yourself. So all those things like, "I'm so busy, I'm so stressed out, I don't have enough time." If you keep saying those things to yourself, that's what your body begins to believe. Okay, so instead you want to say the direct opposite. So say things to yourself like, "I am calm, I am in control, there is more than enough time to do everything I need to do, I am focused, I am effective." And even if you don't believe these when you say them, your body will begin to feel calmer. You'll feel more in control. You'll begin to be able to think more clearly. You'll be more effective, and you'll make less mistakes. And over time, those new mantras, those new affirmations, those new self-talk will begin to become more believable, and your body will start to take those on more and more naturally. So the fourth one is to banish the words should, must, and have to. For example, "I should go to the gym today," "I must stick to this diet," or "I have to start looking for a new job." Now, for the vast majority of us, we live in a free society. We have freedom. We have freedom of choice. We have freedom of thinking. We have freedom of speech. So we have a lot of freedom about what we can do and what we can choose not to do. And of course, there are consequences on what we decide or what we don't decide to do. But we do have a choice. So rather than "I should go to the gym today," "I choose to go to the gym today," or "I can go to the gym." On the diet, it could be I choose to stick to this diet, or "I can stick to this diet," or "I want to stick to this diet." And with looking for a new job, it could be, "I can start looking for a new job," or "I want to start looking for a new job." Can you see how there's some choice there? Now, to you, it might seem like it's just a play on words, but again, your unconscious mind picks up on the feelings behind certain words. And the feeling behind words like should and must are generally a kind of negative, stressful feeling, as they're a lot softer with words like want to, choose to, and could do. So I think you'll find that feels different if you give that a go. You'll feel like you're more in control. So the next one is to make time to do what matters most. So when you look back on your life when you're older, what are you going to really care about? What are you going to regret not doing? It's probably not going to be a lot of the things that are on your current to-do list. So it's important that you make time in the day to do what's really important, the things that you really value. Maybe it's exercise because you want to have a really great body and you want to have long-term sustainable health. Maybe it's meditation so you can feel more and more centered as life goes on. Maybe it's self-improvement so you really can be the best person that you want to be, and you can benefit from that later in life as well. Maybe it's learning a new skill that's going to be really important and valuable to you. Maybe it's studying. Maybe it's setting up a part-time business. So think about all the things that are really important to you, the things that you would really regret if you didn't do those, and you look back on your life when you're older and think, "Oh, I really wish I'd done that." And find a way to make time to fit those into your day, because you will feel much better for yourself doing that. And when you feel better about yourself, you tend to get more of those other things done as well. So the next one is to watch out for perfectionism. Now, quite a few of the clients that I've been seeing recently that have wanted help with stress and overwhelm, there's been one really common thing about pretty much all of them, and that is that they are perfectionists. They want to do things to a really, really high standard. And to do things to a really, really high standard means that they're going to take longer. And if there's only a certain number of hours in the day, then something's going to give. Okay, so watch out for perfectionism. You've got to know the difference between something being perfect and something being good enough. And it might be that you might spend 20% of your time and effort to get something to good enough, and then the remaining 80% to get it to perfect. Okay, so that 80-20 rule. So when you're really striving to make something absolutely perfect, you've got to think about, what else could I be doing with that time? What tasks am I not going to do at all that I could do to a reasonable quality if I didn't make this one task perfectly? How many more people in the world are you going to benefit by getting other things done rather than focusing on this one task? And it's not an easy thing to do. I notice perfectionism tendencies myself as well. So it is a hard one to let go of, but just thinking of it that way I think can really help. And I believe also that behind perfectionism is an underlying fear that I'm not good enough. Okay, so the underlying fear that I'm not good enough. In some way, everything's got to be perfect for me to feel that I'm good enough. So again, beginning to let go of that need and just being aware of that can help as well. And also think about in life when it's important to be a perfectionist and when it isn't. So if you're performing brain surgery, then it's absolutely critical that you are a perfectionist, that you do it absolutely to your best ability, because it's a life or death situation for someone. But if you're at home preparing a salad, maybe that doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. So there's going to be things that you do during the day where perfectionism is really important, and there's going to be other things when good enough is absolutely fine. So make sure you can distinguish between that and don't try and be a perfectionist at everything. So the next one is, don't take on new things. Okay, so these new things could be a new project at work, a new task at work. It could be maybe joining a committee to help with something that is important, you're passionate about. It could be buying a new course and working through that, doing a new exercise program, a new diet. Now all those things, when you do something new, you get that dopamine hit, okay, that feel-good factor. It feels good doing new things, but you've got to remember that that is another thing to do. And you know, when it comes to sort of like new courses, whether it's face-to-face or online, there's always two questions that I ask myself. One is the course or seminar going to be good value for me? And the second one is, have I actually got the time to do it? And quite often the answer at the moment is no. Okay, so make sure that you ask those questions when you're considering doing anything that's going to take up more of your time. And it's important that you balance that reward and that dopamine hit with having some space in your life, just having some space to relax, some space, some time to take time out, and those kind of things. So the next one is to learn to say no. So when you've got too much to do, the last thing you want to do is take on something else. The challenge is when people ask us to do things, particularly if we like the person or we want to gain their respect, we often say yes without thinking about the consequences, actually without thinking about what the extra work is going to involve. And then we begin to regret that later. So there's a few tips for saying no. Firstly, be direct and keep it simple. So say things like, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to do that right now. Also be polite. Say, thanks for asking, but I can't do this at the moment. You can also practice saying no in your imagination. So particularly if it's with people that often ask you to do things, practice in your imagination saying no and noticing how that person reacts. You can even imagine pretending you're the other person receiving that no from you and getting a sense of how they might act. Next one is to buy time. So sometimes rather than say no, say, look, can I get back to you? And then that gives you time to think about, well, how much is that likely to take realistically? Could I fit it in? And if not, it gives you time to think about the best way to say no. Remember that when you say no to someone, you're rejecting their request. You're not rejecting the person. Okay, I think that's really important. And remember also that if you get into the habit of saying yes to everything, then people will start to ask you to do more things. They kind of expect you because they know you're always the person who's going to say yes. So in a way, people can take advantage of you for that. So that's something that you need to watch out for as well. And remember, it's always better to say no now than be resentful later for saying yes. So it's far more important that you say no now rather than then have that feeling of resentment that, oh, maybe I should have said no, but I said yes. And then you start to resent that person over time, which is never a good thing. And remember finally that your self-worth is not dependent on pleasing others. I think that's really, really crucial as well. So the next one is to have a mindful moment. And this one comes from Leo at ZenHabits. So what he says is that when you have too much to do, when you feel overwhelmed, use this as an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Use it as an opportunity to be in the present. So mindfulness is simply being completely in the here and now. So you're not thinking about what's happened in the past, you're not worrying about the future. You're just completely in the present, completely in the here and now. And there's two ways you can practice this. The first way is to just focus completely on what it is you're doing right now without thinking about anything else you need to do, just focusing completely on that one task. Now, if you find that hard to do, the other thing you can do is do what he calls a mind jump. And that is when you take 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, it's up to you. But what you do, let's say you just do this for 1 minute, you just notice on how your body feels while your mind is spinning. So you're just sitting there, you're just noticing the mind going a bit crazy with all the things you need to do, and you just notice how your body feels. Now, the feelings in your body, you're going to start feeling that stress, and that's not going to be a pleasant feeling. However, it's not going to be at the end of the world either. It's not going to be super unpleasant. It's just going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And then as you do that, you just observe how you feel. Okay, and then you start to observe your surroundings, use your senses. So what can you see? What can you hear? What can you feel? And also then just notice how your thoughts are affecting you. So start to notice the thoughts that are coming up in your mind and just noticing how they're affecting your feelings. Maybe you notice, words like should and must to are coming up. Maybe negative phrases that are coming up, and just start to become more and more aware of those. So number 10, and this is the last one, is to practice letting go. So this also comes from Leo at ZenHabits. So what he says is that when you have a big to-do list and you have a high desire to get it all done as soon as you can, that desire gets in the way of actually doing it. It's like that desire affects your concentration and it affects your focus. So what he talks about is the idea of being able to let go of that ideal, the ideal being that you're going to get it all done, and accept the reality. And what is that reality? Well, that reality is that you can only do one thing right now. You can only do one thing at a time. So he also says, be grateful for the moment that you have right now instead of wishing for the moment that you don't have. I think that's so important. So be grateful for the moment you have right now rather than wishing for the moment that you don't have. So many people go through life just thinking about the future, just thinking about things they're looking forward to, but never really thinking about this actual moment right now. So really just practicing, just being so grateful for just where you are right now. And remember that the only constant we really have in life is that there's always going to be more things on your to-do list. I think we can be pretty certain of that. Okay, so that's the only constant. So taking time just to really be grateful for where you are right now is super important. Okay, so just to summarize those 10 ways to help you when you have too much to do, when you feel overwhelmed. So the first one was to write it all down, get it all out of your head, then prioritize, work out what you need to do first, then change your self-talk so it's positive. It's about having enough time. It's about being able to and capable to do all the things you need to do. Banish the words should, must, and have to. Replace them with could, choose to, can do, will do. Make time for what matters most, the things that you really important to you in your life, the things that you would regret if you didn't do when you look back on your life when you're older. Watch out for perfectionism. Remember that in most cases, it's better to be good enough and get more things done. Don't take on new things. I know it can feel good when you do that. Also learn to say no. Have that mindful moment when you feel overwhelmed. So use that as an opportunity to practice mindfulness. And then finally, practice letting go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, please give it a thumbs up, and do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and click the bell notification. That way you will always be notified whenever I release future new videos. And also go and check out my website, that is selfhelpforlife.com. On my website, you will find the written versions of many of these videos, also a link to my podcast and social media as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.